Traditional organic farming methods in India, Vedic farming. It is wonderful to keep this journey going. We've touched on the philosophy. Now let's get our hands into the virtual soil and look at the actual science of Vrikshayurveda and the intricate recipes that make Vedic farming a self-sustaining powerhouse. Part 2. Vrikshayurveda, the medicine of the forest. In the modern world, we have doctors for humans and vets for animals. But in the Vedic period, there was a dedicated branch of science called Vrikshayurveda, the science of tree life. Attributed to sages like Surapala, this isn't just a collection of old wives' tales. It is a sophisticated system of plant pathology and physiology. The central tenet of Vrikshayurveda is that plants, like humans, are governed by the three doshas: vata, airspace; pitta, fire, water; and kapha, water, earth. When a plant gets sick, a Vedic farmer doesn't just ask, what pest is this? They ask, which element is out of balance, healing the internal systems of a tree. Imagine a mango tree that isn't fruiting well. A modern approach might be to dump high nitrogen fertilizer on it. A Vrikshayurvedic practitioner, however, might treat the tree with a mixture of milk, honey, and ghee. It sounds like a dessert, doesn't it? But scientifically, these substances provide immediate lipids and fermented sugars that stimulate the microbial life around the roots, triggering a hormonal response in the tree to produce fruit. One of the most famous preparations is Kunapajala. To a modern nose, it might smell terrible, but to a plant, it's a gourmet meal. It involves fermenting animal remains, marrow, and herbal decoctions. It is essentially an ancient version of liquid hydrolyzed protein, exactly what high-end organic fertilizers try to replicate today. The pharmacy in your backyard, botanical recipes. In Vedic farming, you don't go to a store to buy a side, a word that literally means to kill. Instead, you go to the edges of your field. The philosophy here is that nature always provides the antidote to the problems she creates. 1. The power of Neem, Azadirashta indica. Neem is the undisputed king of the Vedic farm. While chemical pesticides are broad spectrum, meaning they kill the good bugs along with the bad, Neem is a neem insect growth regulator. It doesn't necessarily kill the pest instantly. It messes with their hormones so they forget to eat or reproduce. This is brilliant because it means the good bugs, the ladybugs and spiders, don't die out, maintaining the natural balance. 2. Agniastra, Brahmastra, and Neemastra. These names sound like ancient weapons from the Mahabharata, and in a way, they are. They are the farmer's weapons against infestation. Neemastra, used for general sucking pests and mealybugs. It's a simple fermentation of cow urine, cow dung, and crushed neem leaves. Agniastra, for more stubborn pests like stem borers. This involves heat, using tobacco, green chilies, garlic, and neem. And it's a potent, spicy spray that makes the plant completely unpalatable to larvae. Brahmastra, the ultimate weapon. This is a concentrated decoction made by boiling several bitter leaves: neem, guava, custard, apple, pomegranate, in cow urine. It is used only when an infestation is severe, acting as a powerful repellent that lasts for weeks. Water management, the Ahar-Pyne and beyond. We cannot talk about farming in India without talking about water. The Vedas refer to water as apa, a sacred element. Then the ancient Indian civilizations didn't just rely on rain. They mastered the art of catching the rain where it falls. The Ahar-Pyne system, predominantly found in the Magad region in modern Bihar. This system is a marvel of traditional engineering. Ahars are reservoirs with embankments on three sides. Pines are diversion channels that lead water from rivers or streams into the ahars. This wasn't just about storage. It was about recharging the grass shell on groundwater. By holding water in these reservoirs, the moisture would seep into the surrounding fields even during the dry season. It's a decentralized system owned and managed by the community, not a distant government department. This community-led water. Management is exactly what climate scientists are calling for in 2026 to combat erratic monsoons. The forgotten grains Siridhanya millets in the Vedic era, rice and wheat, weren't the dominant kings they are today. The real stars were millets, small millet, brown top millet, kodo millet, foxtail millet, and barnyard millet. Why are these Vedic grains? Because they are C4 plants. In biology, C4 plants are more efficient at photosynthesis and require significantly less water. In a Vedic farm, millets were the insurance policy. If the rains failed, the rice might die, but the kodo millet would still stand tall. Nutritionally, these grains were called Siridhanya, miracle grains. They are high in fiber and have a low glycemic index. The modern lifestyle disease epidemic, diabetes and hypertension, is often linked to the abandonment of these Vedic staples in favor of refined white rice. Part 3, the social fabric of Vedic farming. One of the most beautiful aspects of traditional Indian farming is that it wasn't a lonely job. It was a communal event. There were songs for sowing, rituals for the first harvest, and shared understanding that a portion of the crop belonged to the birds, the insects, and the traveling monks. This ecological social contract meant that a farmer never felt the crushing weight of debt. If one foreign farmer's crop failed, the village seed bank, usually managed by the women of the village, would provide the seeds for the next season. The seed as a heritage. In Vedic culture, a seed is not a commodity. You don't buy it, use it once, buy it once and buy it again. The Terminator seed model. A seed is a legacy. It carries the memory of the soil, the water, and the sun of that specific region. This is why in situ seed conservation, keeping seeds in the hands of farmers, is the most vital part of Vedic farming revival today. Moving forward, expanding the narrative, we have now covered the medicinal science of plants, the weapons of pest control, the ancient engineering of water, and the cultural importance of millets. We are building a robust picture, but to reach our 3,000-word milestone, we still have several deep dive areas to explore. In the next section, we should look at the microbiology of the cow. Why specifically the humped Desi cow is different from the Western Jersey cow in an agricultural context. The concept of Baranaja, the 12-seed cropping system where 12 different crops grow together in one field. Modern case studies. Real farmers in 2026 who have transitioned from chemical green revolution methods back to Vedic ways, and the data on their soil recovery.